Welcome back to the Thom Hartmann Program. I'm Danielle here with Shano, sitting in for Tom today. And on the line with us is one of my favorite people, John Nichols, National Affairs Correspondent at The Nation magazine and co-author with Robert McChesney of a new book I'm very excited to announce, People Get Ready, The Fight Against a Jobless Economy and a Citizenless Democracy, which you can get starting tomorrow. Hi, John. Congratulations on the new book.
Well, I very much appreciate it. Thank you. We're excited to. We're pre-touring right now. We just did Vancouver last night. Had a couple hundred people out, and now we're in Portland, and it does officially publish tomorrow. So we're real excited.
Oh, it is exciting, and I can't wait to read it and get my hands on it and ask you all about it at some point in the future.
It'll make you a better woman.
As all things written by John Nichols should. Just like the recent article over at The Nation, the GOP establishment now faces its nightmare scenario, Trump versus Cruz. I've said for a little while that I think Cruz is a little scarier than Trump. Am I completely crazy to think that?
Well, you're not completely crazy, although I was very much in that camp till Trump started quoting Mussolini or retweeting Mussolini.
You got me there.
And, yeah, I kind of got a little shaky on Trump. But the bottom line is this. Trump is a shapeshifter. He basically is everything that, that he wants to be that day, and then he's something else the next day. And you really can't trust that anything he's saying is what he believes, because I'm not even sure he knows what he believes. The difference with Cruz is Cruz absolutely knows exactly what he believes, and he isn't going to alter on that at all. And so if by some chance Cruz became president of the United States, which I think is very unlikely, but if he became president of the United States, he would be, the most ideological president in American history. And he would clearly do things that were tremendously damaging to the great mass of Americans if it meant pursuing his ideological goals. So he's an extreme guy. I think that comes through. And so when I suggest that for the GOP establishment, this is kind of a nightmare scenario, they've got Trump, who is pretty scary and, not sure how to renounce the KKK and retweeting Mussolini. And then you've got, Ted Cruz, who, certainly not to besmirch Joe McCarthy, but, when you look at the pictures of the two guys, you really,
I often note
that's a tough one.
I often identify Cruz as notably the most unliked person in the Senate.
Well, I mean, Trump's very good at pointing that out, isn't he? In the debates where he says, none of your colleagues back you. And, here's the bottom line, though. The Republican establishment is now in full crisis mode. Progressives shouldn't be, just too relaxed about that because, it's complex. Politics is very complex this year. It's a volatile year where expectations are being blown up all over the place. But what is clearly happening on the Republican side is fascinating because, they got this Trump problem. They want to deal with that. And so they spent all last week trying to deal with it, right? They rolled out Mitt Romney, which is not always a wise move.
Yeah.
But, they put all this energy into, taking Trump down. And truthfully, the only thing they wanted was for little Marco Rubio to get a tiny bit of traction, right? Or Kasich, if that's, where it is.
Right.
Now,
either of those two quote-unquote establishment candidates.
Yeah, and truly with Rubio, he's not just establishment. He's the most corporate candidate.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, he ought to just have the corporate logos on his suit. But the fact of the matter is that that's all they wanted. It's easy if they could just get that. Instead, Cruz, first off, he does a little better than expected on Super Tuesday. And then on Saturday, he pops Kansas. He pops in Maine with good, clean wins in those two. And then he comes within 5 points of beating Trump in Kentucky and in Louisiana. So, I mean, Cruz actually owned Saturday by a lot of measures.
Yeah, it certainly looked like he did.
So that pushes Marco Rubio more to the sideline. Now there's mounting evidence that up in Michigan, Kasich is rising politically. Seems to be moving up. Cruz is holding his own, and Rubio is kind of just treading water, not doing well there. So they're in this chaos situation, and the chaos situation generally defaults toward Trump. So for them. Things aren't going well. Period.
Did we lose?
We may
John?
have lost him.
Uh-oh.
I'm here.
Oh, there he is. Okay.
Yeah. It's just Trump was intervening. That's what happened.
His little hands were reaching out and killing the phone signal. Sorry.
They're beautiful hands. They're beautiful.
John, sorry, continue.
Yes. Anyways, that's the heart of the matter, is that the Republican crisis is real. It's a very serious matter. And I think that now for progressives, one of the important things to understand, though, is that there's a bit of a crisis that extends beyond the Republican mess, and that is that because the Republican establishment, which is so very close to most of our media, is in crisis, this becomes a crisis for a lot of our media establishment as well. And they are obsessively over-covering the Republican race. Yeah, I mean, they're just like, it's all they can talk about. That is actually influencing the Democratic race because it's sucking the oxygen out of the room. And so I think that, while we can watch the demolition derby on the Republican side, we should also recognize that it's not necessarily without its impacts on the Democratic side as well.
Yeah, and at least to me personally, and I'm sure to many people listening, how it affects our side and the eventual general should be our biggest concern. And I'm not sure, when I look at these two, at this moment, at this snapshot in time, the most likely nominee on the Republican side, Cruz or Trump, I can't say for certain or even form a strong opinion about which one would be better for Democrats to run against. Have you seen anything poll-wise or even just commentary and opinion that suggests one or the other?
Well, here's where I think it ends up. Polling right now suggests that Cruz or Rubio or Kasich runs better against Clinton or Sanders than does Trump. Trump is weaker, and that's a lot of your national polls and actually quite a few of your battleground state polls. But here's the problem, and I think one thing I will say about Donald Trump is listen to what he says. He means it. He doesn't mean it on the issues. He'll say anything on an issue. But when he talks about strategy, he's serious. And one of the things he said recently was, I haven't even begun to go after Hillary Clinton. That's an important thing to understand. It is my view that if Trump is nominated, the scorched earth approach that he will bring to things and the inability of our media to cover anything but Trump makes him probably a more viable candidate, right? It gives him more space in which to, at the very least, dominate the discussion and potentially do a very crude outreach to working class Democrats on jobs and trade issues and a host of others.
Yeah,
I think Trump's more dangerous than Cruz.
That is my concern now. Cruz being taken more seriously, if you will, but his talk on trade, whether he believes any of it, as you've said, or whether he would pursue any of the policies that he talks about, thinks about, what have you, I think it appeals to the white working class Midwest, Northeast voter who has seen those jobs shipped overseas, who has seen trade really decimate their cities, et cetera. How do Democrats, position themselves to deal with that? Sure, I can say I would love to see Bernie Sanders as the nominee, but we have to prepare for a strategy to defeat him no matter what.
Well, this is the thing. One of the mistakes that people make in our overly personality-focused politics is to assume that one candidate has all the answers and another has none of the answers. The truth of the matter is that for taking on Donald Trump, if that is what happens, you're going to need a big dose of Bernie Sanders, and you're going to need at least some of a dose of Hillary Clinton. And what I mean by that is you need Sanders' economic appeal. You need an absolutely aggressive, sharp knife economic appeal. You can't play games with that because Trump will be looking for whatever vulnerabilities in it. And he would certainly go after Clinton in a much more aggressive way than Sanders has on economic issues. By the same token, Hillary Clinton's focus on African Americans, on Latinos, on women, that's a part of it too, because Donald Trump has offended a lot of people. By the same token, he plays a game of reaching out to a lot of communities. You have got to have a solidarity politics. It has to be a solidarity politics on issues of class and economics, but it also has to be a solidarity politics with immigrants, with people of color, with women who have been hit so hard with Trump. You have to dial up the volume on both of those things and put them together in order to clearly isolate Trump on the fringe. If you don't, if you just err toward one side, just say, oh, we're going to put our populism against his populism, or if you say we're going to run a solidarity campaign, against his, kind of crude, ugly politics, that may not be sufficient. You need both.
Yeah.
You need the economics and you need the solidarity with communities and peoples that he has attacked.
And I do think we're seeing both candidates try and pick up the strengths of the other, so hopefully we'll get to that point. John, thank you so much.
To watch more clips from our programs, hit the Watch More Videos button over here. And please be sure to hit the handy-dandy subscribe button so you'll always be up to date. Tag, you're it.